Please welcome up to the stage. Today we have Janel Jensen. She's the VP of Transformation Management and Delivery at Paramount. And she's going to talk to us about sailing the seas of FinOps, nurturing a FinOps culture for smooth navigation. I like the sailing theme you've got there.
Thank you. Well, thank you and welcome and good afternoon. Today has been absolutely amazing. The keynote speakers, the various sessions, I don't know about you, but I feel, like they were saying this morning, welcome home. I feel at home. I'm loving the networking, the collaboration, and just sharing our experiences with each other, and excited to be here today. So first, Paramount. A lot of people I talk to, they don't necessarily understand or know the various brands that are under Paramount Global. We have a global reach of 4.3 billion subscribers across 180 countries. These are recognizable brands, and we work with the teams around the globe to ensure that we have an efficient FinOps practice and we build a FinOps culture. And so I want to share with you today what I've learned throughout my career that we are implementing at Paramount, the successes we've had, the changes that we're making in order to continue building and fostering that FinOps culture. One thing I have learned throughout my career, I've been working in the cloud a little over a decade now, there is not one solution that will solve everybody's needs. Even within the various teams at Paramount we work with, the way we approach the teams, the conversations we have with the teams in order to foster a FinOps culture is completely different between each team because of the various types of skill sets they have, even cultures that we're working with, and the way they look at the data, their strategies, the way they're leveraging the various services within the various clouds. So a little bit about my FinOps journey. I'm an accountant. I'm a data nerd and an accountant by nature. So I started working in December 2013 at a company called Second Watch. And that's when I really started working with the various billing data in the clouds and learning how to leverage it for business purposes. So as a reseller of capacity and reselling those services, we would work with the various clients in order to identify how they wanted to do their chargebacks, how do they wanted to share the various fees, as well as working with accounts payable, identifying billing errors with cloud providers, learning to work with the cloud providers in order to rectify any cloud billing errors. Then moved over into cloud economics, where I started learning a lot more about committed use strategies, so savings plans, reserved instances, committed use discounts, working with various clients to understand their risk tolerance, how they wanted to, a lot of times they need to be educated on what is a savings plan, how are they applied, how do you analyze the data in order to effectively manage it and maximize savings. And then I had an opportunity to join Vega Cloud, which is a software platform. They do have a booth here, go check them out. And then I had an opportunity, where I am now, to join Paramount. I did start working with Paramount 4 years ago at Second Watch and then at Vega Cloud. And so I'm very honored to now take what I have learned and bring that to Paramount to build upon the great, wonderful practices they already have and continue to contribute to the success of the organization. One of the things I have learned above everything else, collaboration is the cornerstone of an effective FinOps program. Everybody brings a different skill set, a different ability to the table. And by collaborating and working together as a team, collaborate with your accounting teams, your finance teams, your engineers, your leadership to understand the strategic direction, to prioritize what the engineers should be focusing on. Work together with your finance and accounting teams to understand the financial impact of the cloud so the engineers can continue to innovate and focus on the technology side. Collaboration is truly the key. Okay, so how do you nurture a FinOps culture? What has worked well for me throughout my career in fostering a FinOps culture is creating a cost-conscious decision-making culture. How do you do that? We have found that through visibility and education, That is one of the keys to successfully developing a FinOps culture. Well, what does visibility and education look like? We have regular business reviews where we meet with various teams from all the different brands from around the globe and make sure they have a complete visibility into their spend. Not just cost optimization opportunities, but complete visibility into spend. And we're going to dive into what those business reviews really look like in more detail. Additionally, for engineers, the cost implications of the decisions they make are not always intuitive within the consoles. So by providing that visibility into the spend, they can see as they're making changes what the financial impact of those changes are on the business. Was it a financial impact they were expecting? If not, then maybe there are some changes that need to be made in the environment. And then also, how do you drive action? There's some quick, easy ways, quick, easy wins. Find those low-hanging fruits. What are those high savings opportunities, low-level effort, right? Those are your quick wins. Get some of those out of the way. You can also, depending on the various teams you're working with, you can customize committed use strategies. When you have a true understanding through these business reviews, and again, we'll talk more about them, when you have a true understanding of what these engineers are doing in their environment in the long term or even in the short term, you can really leverage committed use strategies to maximize savings for your organization and for the teams. Showing financial impacts of actions taken. Last year at Paramount, we had a very large initiative to optimize object storage, leveraging those less expensive storage tiers within the clouds. So in our business reviews, we could show with leadership on the call so they can see the work the team has done as the total number of gigabytes in object storage is going up, the cost per month is going down, the average cost per gigabyte is going down. And so being able to visually show that and celebrate those wins, celebrating wins, giving those teams kudos when they are making actions, big or small, it's like a snowball effect. It empowers them to want to do more. Collaboration. You have to foster cross-team collaboration. And what I mean by that is with each of the brands, each of the teams we work with, they have different skill sets, different capabilities, and different areas where they really shine. And so if we have one team that succeeds and does something very well in one area, and we have another team that maybe needs some assistance in that area, we can create cross-team collaboration where they can share that knowledge. And collaborate with your cloud service providers. Your cloud service providers, they want you to be successful. Your success is their success. Leverage them. Okay, so what I have learned, visibility into cloud spending and associated optimization opportunities creates a culture that prioritizes cost-conscious decision-making. With that visibility into that spend and those regular reviews as you're diving into that spend, it really creates that cost-conscious. They want to know more. They want to really understand the data. So how do you do that? What have I found to be some of the keys to effective business reviews? How do you go beyond those usual cost savings opportunities? Well, first and foremost, who should be included in those reviews? Identify your key stakeholders that are going to need to be engaged in these conversations. First and foremost, to drive action, you want to engage with your engineers. The more engineers that are actually performing the actions, the more effective it will be. I've also found it very helpful for leadership to be included on the calls. And I'm going to give you an example here shortly, but leadership, they're going to give the engineers, they're going to help them prioritize the actions within the environment as well. So as you're talking about your various cost optimization opportunities, they will help them prioritize accordingly. In the business reviews, in addition to the Optimization opportunities, we're going to identify all the optimization opportunities. What are their waste elimination? What type of object storage? What bucket should we analyze? Should we dive into? Are there opportunities to leverage intelligent tiering or auto class? Auto parking, what are all the various opportunities? But in addition to that, where you're really going to have some impact within your culture and drive a cost-conscious culture is analyzing those spend trends, really giving the engineers visibility into the changes. Let me give you an example from 2 weeks ago. I was listening in on a call, and an analyst was presenting to the engineers on some of the changes within the environment that they've seen month over month. There was an increase in EFS spend, and the increase was small enough that it was not detected within the normal anomaly detection. But it was big enough that it was through the analysis and preparation for the business review that it was identified and brought up to the engineers on the call. During the call, the engineer didn't expect to see that increase in spend. And so they were able to identify it and then follow up on that spend. And they actually knew it was a configuration change. They didn't expect the increase, and they actioned it on the call. And so by the end of the call, the spend was coming back down. Education and best practices. As previously mentioned, those cost implications of those decisions made, like that EFS spend, the change in configuration, those aren't clear when the engineers are making those changes in the platform or in the portal or in the consoles. And so being able to give them that insight into that financial impact, it really does create that cost-conscious culture. Continuous improvement. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to give you an example of that here shortly, but continuous improvement, you have to continuously evolve your conversations with your businesses. I still meet with some of the same businesses at Paramount that I met with originally 4 years ago. The conversations have completely changed. The format has completely changed, and the way we are driving those conversations has completely changed because it's imperative to evolve how we are discussing the cloud spend and the opportunities with the teams. Be patient, persistent, and consistent under continuous improvement. One of the things I want to call out there in terms of collaboration and business reviews, one of the original teams I worked with 4 years ago at Paramount, and it was one of the sports teams, they originally were not engaged in the conversations when we would meet with them. They sit there respectfully and quietly on the calls, but they really would not engage and participate in the conversations. Well, how do we get them to collaborate, and why weren't they collaborating? Well, this team, they already had their own optimization practices that they were following internally. And so they didn't see the benefit of having this vendor. Who are you guys? We already do optimization. Not recognizing at the time that these business reviews weren't just about optimization. It's empowering them to have visibility into what they were doing within the cloud so they can make better and more informed decisions, more actionable insights into the data beyond just cost optimization. That team is now one of the most engaged teams we work with. They have now seen the benefit of the way we deliver this information to them. They have multiple engineers attend these business reviews. They assign out tasks on who's going to follow up on certain items, and sometimes we'll even have a follow-up direct conversations in a specific subject matter or area. It is really great to see through that patience, persistence, and consistency how we were able to improve that collaboration with that team. Okay, but when you have a large global company and you are working with various teams around the globe, and the environment's changing constantly. Nothing is ever the same, and the usage and the patterns are never the same. There's so many different things going on. Think about streaming, right? During the holidays, you're going to have more activity in certain areas. You have the seasonality, CBS Sports. There's a little thing called March Madness. You might think the cloud spend might change a little bit there. We've got an election coming up. I wonder what that's going to do to CBS News spend. So one of the ways we are able to assist the team with committed use discounts, we leverage the economies of scale across all the brands in order to maximize our savings. So as part of that, we need to make sure we know what the teams are doing. We need to know the changes in the environment they're making. If we're talking with the team and they are going to be going from M5 Elasticache to M7G Elasticache, then we need to adjust our committed use strategy to not over-purchase M5 Elasticache. And then we can increase quickly our M7G Elasticache as an example as they do make those changes in their environment. As we have conversations with the various teams, we have to really understand our centralized FinOps team. We also have to really understand the various types of services that can be covered by a committed use. We were on a call last week with the team that had a slight increase. It wasn't too big, but it was very noticeable in DynamoDB. And for those of you that are familiar with DynamoDB, you do have a couple different options for reducing your DynamoDB costs for your read and write capacity. This team, through the conversations, generally will try to leverage a 3-year reservation, because that's what, 74%, 77% savings. So your break-even's pretty small with that 3-year. But this team, they were planning to just use it temporarily until they transfer to another database. So through those conversations, getting an idea of that timeline, we realized we can leverage very easily a 1-year reservation, which still has that 54% savings and a 5.5 month break-even point. So through those conversations, that's how we can really maximize those savings. And the centralized FinOps team is also the contract experts. Our engineers do not understand the implications of any changes they might make in the environment, how it might impact our commitments with the cloud providers. We've had 2 instances in the last 2 months where some pretty significant changes were being analyzed to see if they were a proper opportunity. Both could have had a pretty large impact on our commitments. And so being able to being that active listener, understanding our contracts, so when there is a change, as we're talking with all the various brands and we understand the impacts, and so we can identify early what any de-risking strategy might need to be, it really helps the organization overall. And then fostering collaboration, especially finding those subject matter experts. Paramount has a phenomenal storage team. When it comes to technical expertise, in terms of cloud storage, they are phenomenal. They really live, we have the saying at Paramount, one Paramount. We're one Paramount. With all these various brands around the globe, we're still one Paramount. Our storage team, even though they're on one specific team and they don't generally work with all the various teams, they want to support every team when it comes to storage. So their leader, through a recent conversation, hey, Janel, I know you're going to be talking with the streaming team soon, and we've helped identify these opportunities we'd like you to discuss with them, and if they need technical assistance, we are here for them. We want to support them. We want them to be successful. And so that cross-team collaboration, finding those subject matter experts to help everybody within the organization, it's a win-win. Okay, so that last slide, the business reviews, this proactive FinOps management. Let me tell you another story from last week. There was one team, we weren't really getting the engagement in the business reviews that we really should be getting from this team because of the amount of spend, the complexity, and the visibility of their spend. So went back and had some conversations with the individuals that are included in those business reviews, reviewed some of the prior business review notes, and so, okay, let's change our approach. Let's change the way we tackle this conversation. Let's, based off of how this individual wants to see the data and what makes sense to them, let's change it. Let's give them this visibility and visualizations that make sense to them. Let's have conversations and get them engaged in answering questions. By the end of that call, we decided we needed a follow-up call with his leader to help prioritize all the various opportunities we discussed, with another engineer that I have never met, has never been on one of the calls, that will be able to answer some of the questions that we asked, as well as the finance team because based off of all of the changes that we're going to be discussing, they're going to need to update their long-range plans. And so now we've got this team engaged. Now we can collaborate, and now we can really, really drive some action. Okay, everything FinOps, everything in the cloud is data-driven. I love data. I'm a data nerd. Data-driven decision-making is crucial for the success of a FinOps program. And we're going to dive into that in a little bit more detail. So when it comes to nurturing a FinOps program, I have identified 3 key areas in the FinOps world of Janel that really help nurture that FinOps culture. Creating a collaborative approach. How do you coordinate your crew? Increase visibility, clear skies ahead, and data-driven decision-making, nautical charts. Okay, I have met several people that are brand new to FinOps, so I want to dive into some of the more details. How do you create that collaborative approach? And I can't remember which session I was in earlier today, and they really touched on this, and that identifying that leadership sponsor is so crucial to the success of your FinOps program. But depending on the size and complexity of your organization, you may need to obtain other additional executive buy-in as well. It's also imperative that you define roles and responsibilities. Who's going to lead the business reviews? Who's going to analyze various data? Who's going to manage various forecasts? And then also depending on your company, your size, and complexity, do you want to take a centralized or decentralized approach to FinOps? And sometimes it could be a mixed approach, as well as promote collaboration. Okay, when we're talking collaboration, you cannot think only internal collaboration. Part of your success is going to be your external collaboration. The cloud service providers, again, I mentioned earlier, they want you to be successful in your FinOps program. Leverage them. If there's a new service, see if they'll give you a demo. If there's a webinar that you want to attend, or I cannot tell you how often my team is on the cloud providers' websites, researching something, making sure it ties back to the data the way we're expecting. So many different areas you can do that. Develop a FinOps community. The fact that you are all here is evidence that you're already doing that. Being part of the FinOps Foundation, participating in the conference, you're developing that community. Find those individuals that you can network with and collaborate with. Have regular collaborations with other companies. Carolyn Z. Smith, her last name's really not Z. Smith, I can't pronounce her name. She leads the FinOps team over at Hearst. She is phenomenal, and we have an opportunity to collaborate on a regular basis. She has a session tomorrow. I encourage you to go listen to her. Her and I take different approaches to FinOps, but we also both have very effective approaches to FinOps. So please go listen to Carolyn tomorrow. FinOps platform providers. I love demos. You know why I love demos? You give me ideas I haven't thought of before, so I will talk to any vendor. I will attend webinars. I love getting ideas because there's always a new way to slice it, right? There's always a new way to go after it. So leverage those external resources when you're developing your FinOps practice. Data-driven decision making. I love data. I know I've said that 20 times already, but I really love data. Decisions based on data are more reliable than intuition alone. Within the first couple of months of me joining the Paramount team, I had an individual from Paramount reach out to me, as well as the cloud providers reach out to me regarding an opportunity for an additional reserved instance that could save us 6 figures a month. Yeah, in theory, because that's what it says in the console, but in reality, because of the data, and because of the conversations we were having in the business, no, that wasn't an opportunity. Thank you for bringing it to our attention, but we know it's not an opportunity. So it's very important. You cannot rely on intuition alone. You need to find a way to get the right data so you can make the right decisions. Data also allows you to have a proactive cost management approach. Data, and the right data, allows you to develop continuous improvement within your FinOps practice. And data, there's all sorts of optimization insights. Data is a magical thing. So I mentioned earlier, our storage optimization our teams have been working on. Well, we've now identified the teams, hey, great, you've started leveraging these less expensive storage tiers. Well, your access costs have now gone up significantly, so maybe going to those less expensive storage tiers wasn't the most cost-effective approach. So that's an area we're currently working on. We leverage data quite extensively to manage our committed use. We're regularly monitoring our coverage and our utilization, especially with all the various changes that are going on within the environment on a consistent basis. And data allows us to do that. You know, and some of the things we have to take into consideration are those seasonality of spend within the environment. March Madness, you know, there was a little thing in February, you might have heard of it, it was called the Super Bowl. You know, you have to really understand the data so you do not over-purchase your committed use. The right data, it's going to really allow you to enhance your financial management capability, your cloud financial management capabilities. When it comes to, okay, garbage in is garbage out. Yeah, it's great if you have tags, but if the tags are meaningless, then it's not useful at all. One of the things we're working on right now is a review of some of our older tagging of some of our resources that have been around for a while to make sure that the tags are updated to be a meaningful value that can then be used to create more visibility to leadership into what the cloud spend is associated to. Okay, choosing the right sail for your voyage. How do you know where do you get the data? There's so many options out there, and there's not always going to be one solution for your organization necessarily. Cloud providers, they have come a long way with their built-in tools and dashboards. Third-party FinOps platforms, there are some great options out there that give you that visibility with the right visualizations that are going to be effective, as well as you can do custom internal built tools. Most organizations, larger organizations, are going to be kind of a hybrid mix. I personally, because again, data nerd, I want access to the raw billing data, in addition to all of the others. Okay, measuring success is crucial for understanding effectiveness, benchmarking current capabilities, and to drive continuous improvement. So how do you measure success? Well, first and foremost, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So identifying what are some key performance indicators that work for your organization, what's meaningful that's going to help you monitor cost savings and optimization efforts. Benchmarks, not just with your cloud data. How do you measure up with like companies within, you know, how do you compare to industry benchmarks? So in addition to measuring your success, measuring against other industry benchmarks will assist you in developing your FinOps program. The work of fostering a cost-conscious culture is never complete. It evolves alongside the organization's cloud usage and business goals. You need to continuously be evolving your approach. As services change, as strategy changes, as risk tolerance changes, you need to adjust. Okay, so what's next at Paramount? Continuous improvement, that's really it. The business reviews, we're meeting with the leaders, understanding what's been working well, where can we find improvement, how can we help them have better visibility. Cloud maturity assessment, where do we have an opportunity for improvement? Where can we better align to be within those best-in-class standards? Reporting and tagging, as I mentioned, we're doing some cleanup there. Gen AI, don't know how we're going to leverage it yet, but we started those conversations, and I think there's so much opportunity and excitement there. And then cost optimizations. My team has a cost optimization backlog. And so as we have time, we're going to be prioritizing and working on those. We love finding new opportunities to leverage the data to work with our teams and empower them. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Janelle. Let's give her a big round of applause, everybody. Let's let her hear. We got a full room here. We've got plenty of time for questions. We got about 15 minutes here. Who wants to kick it off? All right.
Yeah, let's make it quick, though. We need to go get some drinks on the boat.
Hi, how do you run your business reviews? So you just meet with the leadership, and then from there you kind of do a top-down approach of, who are the teams that you need to work with strategically?
Great question. So we meet with, it varies by team. But where possible, you definitely always want to have those engineers. Whoever's going to take action, you want to have them on the call. Some of the calls, the leadership's going to be on the call. Some of the calls, finance team's going to be on the call, listening in, especially if they're in an LRP or forecasting phase. So the more individuals you can get to attend the call, the better, right? The better action you're going to have. We leverage, for those conversations, Vega Cloud, to guide the conversation, and that gives us visibility with some great visualizations where we can have targeted discussions based off of the service mix that each team has, because each team is going to have a completely different service mix, so you can't have the same conversation with each team.
Right here? Okay.
Hi, you mentioned monitoring the projects from the engineering teams. How has your team been able to influence the engineering team to keep up to date the two aspects that are more important to financial teams? So that being the timeline and accurate forecast for what either optimizations or new product launches should be.
Yeah, great question. So very similar to an answer, I believe it was Walmart. Was it Walmart? I think gave earlier today as well, is we provide visibility and insight into the optimization opportunities, and then it's really a lot of times up to them to prioritize how they're going to action those opportunities that have been identified. That's where it's also important to have the leadership on the call, and this team we met with last week, where we're having a follow-up conversation with leadership so they can help prioritize, because the engineers are busy, you guys. They are doing so much, and they're already overworked and overwhelmed, and so having leadership help prioritize those optimization opportunities is helpful. Yeah, you're welcome.
You mostly just answered my question, but kind of a follow-up to that. Do you track any of these opportunities centrally? So you're saying you have leadership prioritized, but like you as a FinOps team, is there any way that you are tracking these and making sure that people are actually following through?
That's a great question. So one of the ways we're able to do that, within the Vega platform, they have a recommendation section. And so where the recommendations that are surfaced within their tool, you can really monitor the total savings month over month. And so as different things do change. As an example, one of the teams we're working with, they had, I believe it was about $33,000 of unattached disks not too long ago. Well, what was causing that? Well, there's a configuration issue that they need to go fix. But in the meantime, they're just manually deleting them. So they got it way down. It started to come back up again. And so now we're working with leadership. Hey, we need to prioritize this so we don't continue to have these unattached disks. It's great to delete them, but it's also a lot of manual effort. So if we could just fix this, spend a little time over here, it's going to save money in the long run.
Yeah, my question is, what are like the real-life challenges in incorporating this culture in an organization? Because, you might have a leadership team agree to the culture, but you have different, if you're dealing with different business units, what are like the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
So if I understood correctly, you're asking about the working with the different cultures? Oh, how do we drive it within the organization? Sorry, what was that last?
No, the challenges.
Oh, gotcha. Well, there's a lot of challenges. and that's, let me see if I can think of an example real quick. There's always a lot of challenges whenever you have a lot of various teams. There's some competition between some teams, which can create some issues at times as well. But where it has been beneficial is the FinOps team is Switzerland. And so everybody knows they can leverage and benefit from the FinOps team. And so we're hoping that we can leverage the FinOps team to tear down some of those barriers.
They're neutral.
Yes.
We're on a similar journey around creating cost-conscious culture with our environment, and I'm curious if you have, beyond the unit economic KPIs that you're probably tracking, do you have specific cultural KPIs that you're looking at to measure how successful you've been in kind of spreading that culture around?
We will now. You know, that really is a great one. That really is a great one. You know, and culturally, we're all one Paramount. Let's work together. But it's difficult, right? We're all so busy at the same time, and so the change is also difficult. And sometimes it's just a slow making it. But yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
So data is very important. What's your silver bullet for keeping tag data and CMDB data up to date in a nice way?
That's a tough one, because each team is also very different when it comes to tagging. Some teams are very excellent at tagging, and it's a top priority. Other teams, if we get around to it. And so one of the things we want to work on there, because tagging is still so very important, especially when our executive leadership needs additional visibility into what we're spending in the cloud. And so one of the things we're working on is getting some of that executive sponsorship in order to make it a priority with the teams. You're welcome.
Jens? Oh, here we go.
If you had to redo something in your FinOps team, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. More Tequila Tuesdays. You know, I think there's some different approaches I would take with the data. And I don't want to say exactly what those are just yet, because I need to conceptualize and if that's even a possibility. But there's some different approaches, I think, that we can make some slight changes in order to increase savings in a couple areas, to update our strategies. But in terms of additional changes, that's when I should have an answer there, but I don't have one immediately. You know, one of the things we do try to do is some of these business reviews, we are going to fall flat. It's not going to go well. And so we do, along the way, try to continuously improve. And so as something isn't working, we do try to make those adjustments as we're going.
If all is going well for the business review, what do you then speak about at the business review? Because
then we can talk about strategy. What are you guys doing 6 months down the road? What are you doing a year down the road? Even though this month the spend didn't change, you've obviously got something in the pipeline. Is there a new project you're getting rolled out? What are you testing? Sometimes in those reviews, the team wants to talk about moving to another cloud. What does that look like? What's the financial impact if they did that? So the business reviews, they can be so much more. Sometimes we can even invite a subject matter expert to the reviews. And so the business reviews, they can be changed and updated depending on the need at the time.
Who's got the next tough question for Janel?
Nobody's even asked me what I'm going to drink on the boat.
Do you have any different strategy for production versus non-production on some of these savings goals?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, one of the things you can think about for non-production is auto parking, right? If you don't need to be running your instances 24/7, shut them down in the evenings and the weekends. The problem with that sometimes in a global company is you've got resources around the world that might be using them. And so that's where data comes in handy, and it helps you identify those resources where, are you really using it? Good question.
Thank you for the presentation. Tagging. On which level do you tag, and what are the typical tags that you employ?
Yeah, so we have a list of what we would call required tags that we use. So there's certain things in there like your application, your technical owners, your financial owners, your business divisions, and there's even some tags that are specific to a specific team. It may not be required for all the other teams. So it allows them to customize because, again, each team is so unique and different, has different strategies. They look at the data slightly different. It's generally going to be at the resource level.
Okay.
I had a question about the team structure, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but how do you guys have the time in the day to do all of this? It sounds like you're doing a lot. Can you talk about how you prioritize the time and the efforts amongst different types of personas on the team?
We're good. You know, we are lean and mean. We are really lean and mean. And what allows us to be really lean and mean and good at what we do, the Vega tool is really a big part of that. It allows us to quickly analyze data going into the meetings, quickly analyze, hey, what's the percentage of spend? Where's the most spend? Where's the largest change this month? Hey, there's different days in the month. What's the daily average between the two? Where should we really focus? And then really diving in, okay, there was a change. What drove that change? And getting all the way down to the actual resource that caused the change, the spend to go up or down, we can analyze. Once you've done it a while, it's amazing how quickly you can analyze the spend for a group.
Speaking about tagging and labeling, how do you address accountability and adherence when it comes to senior leadership reporting and bad data? Do you correct the data before presenting it to your senior leadership team, or do you give them the bad data?
Hey, sometimes it's good to let them see the bad data so they can help prioritize for the team that they need to clean up the tagging.
Any other questions? Everybody's ready? We got one?
Did you have one? Oh.
All right, let's give Janel one more round of
Thanks,
applause,
guys.
everybody. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. You've
you.
clearly been doing this for a long time. We have our networking reception right now out in the main area, and at 6 o'clock, you can get on the bus downstairs at the Pacific Ballroom to the Midway. It's going to be a great party tonight.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X 2024 content on our YouTube channel on the 2024 playlist. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and by leaving comments and questions for our speakers. We appreciate your support.